What if I told you that stupidity isn't just ignorance, but a force more dangerous than hate, a silent virus that infects even the most brilliant minds, twisting their talents into tools of destruction? The biggest threat to humanity may not be wicked people doing wicked things, but ordinary people who've stopped thinking. Picture this. A respected scientist begins spreading falsehoods. A kind-hearted teacher endorses harmful ideas. A devoted parent makes choices that put their own children at risk. These aren't monsters. They're thoughtful, educated people. But something has short-circuited in their minds. What the German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer called the power of stupidity. Here's what makes this terrifying. It's not happening to them. It's happening to people just like us. And if we're not careful, it can happen to you too. This isn't just theory. In 1961, a psychologist named Stanley Milgram ran a chilling experiment at Yale. He asked volunteers to deliver electric shocks to a stranger just because an authority figure told them to. Even when they heard screams of pain, 65% of them kept going, believing they might be causing death. These weren't cruel people. They were ordinary citizens, but they had surrendered their moral judgment for the comfort of obedience. This is exactly what Bonhoeffer witnessed in Nazi Germany, and it led him to one of the most disturbing insights ever recorded about human behavior. But before we go deeper, ask yourself, have you ever believed something just because everyone around you believed it too? Hold that thought. Bonhoeffer wasn't just a philosopher, he was a pastor, a man of action. Born in 1906 to a family of academics, he believed in reason, debate, and moral courage. But when the Nazis rose to power, something shattered his faith in logic. He watched as intelligent, cultured Germans, teachers, doctors, preachers, embrace lies, cruelty, and fanaticism. People who once stood for truth and dignity, now parroting propaganda and supporting horror. From a Nazi prison cell in 1943, Bonhoeffer wrote, "Against stupidity, we are defenseless. Neither protest nor force can touch it. Arguments fall on deaf ears." What made this line so devastating wasn't just the timing, it was the truth. Evil, Bonhoeffer said, eventually burns itself out. It breeds guilt, resistance, collapse. But stupidity? It feels virtuous. It convinces itself it's doing good, which makes it almost impossible to correct. Even worse, it serves power, because the stupid person doesn't think for themselves. They echo slogans, repeat catchphrases, outsource their moral compass. As Bonhoeffer put it, one does not speak with the person, but with the phrases that have taken possession of them. This isn't about IQ. This is about what modern psychology calls functional stupidity. It's when systems, pressures, or social incentives make thinking feel expensive and obedience feel easy. Social media thrives on it. News channels profit from it. Politicians exploit it. In a world flooded with noise, stress, and distraction, it's easier to follow the crowd than pause and think. This isn't weakness, it's adaptation. Psychologists call it rational ignorance. When life is hard and time is short, avoiding deep thought becomes a survival tactic. But when millions do it at once, we don't get a stupid individual. We get a stupid society. And our brains are wired for this. In the 1950s, Leon Festinger showed how we twist facts to protect our beliefs. Later, Solomon Asch proved how easily people conform to groupthink, even when they know the group is wrong. Now imagine this. That same human brain, wired for conformity, overwhelmed by stress, is being targeted by billion-dollar algorithms designed to manipulate your thoughts. Welcome to the age of engineered ignorance. False news spreads 6 times faster than truth. Why? Because it feels good. It triggers emotion. It gives certainty in a world full of chaos. And social media? It doesn't care what's true. It cares what spreads. So it shows you what you want to see, echoes your beliefs, trains your brain to react, not reflect. This is no longer just about propaganda. This is about psychological warfare against your own ability to think. From the Salem witch trials to McCarthyism to COVID conspiracies, the pattern is always the same. Normal people under pressure become intellectual hostages, not because they're evil, but because they stopped questioning. So how do we fight back? Bonhoeffer called it costly grace, the courage to think when thinking is costly, to stand firm when silence is safer. And today we add one more layer: cognitive resistance. Here's how: 1. Seek friction. Read things that challenge you. Let your ideas be tested by opposing views. 2. Doubt certainty. When you're sure of something, ask, what would change my mind? If the answer is nothing, you're not thinking, you're believing. 3. Pause before sharing. Take 60 seconds to verify a claim before reposting it. That 1 minute can save 1,000 minds. 4. Say, I don't know. It's not weakness, it's intellectual strength. But even these habits aren't enough. We need better systems. Platforms must show how their algorithms shape our views. Schools must teach media literacy like they teach math. And governments must reduce the economic stress that drives people toward lazy thinking. Because when someone is drowning in debt, fear, or insecurity, they don't have the luxury to fact check. Bonhoeffer saw all this coming, but he couldn't have imagined AI deepfakes, 24/7 feeds, or echo chambers that follow us in our pockets. Still, his message hasn't aged a day. Who stands fast? He asked. Who still thinks when the world demands blind obedience? It won't be the smartest or the loudest. It'll be those with the courage to stay curious, to think slowly in a world that rewards speed, to sit in discomfort when everyone else is running from it. Thinking is hard. Holding two conflicting ideas at once, painful. Admitting you might be wrong, excruciating. But Bonhoeffer believed that discomfort is the price of staying fully human. Because the moment you stop thinking, you stop choosing, you become a puppet, and the strongest force in the room pulls your strings. We ended part 1 with a challenge: to question what you believe most deeply. But what happens after that? What happens when you start seeing the cracks, and everyone else pretends the wall is still whole? That's when the real war begins. Not out there, but inside you. Because the second you step outside the comfort of group consensus, you'll notice something terrifying. You're alone. You'll feel the silence, the awkward stares, the subtle unfollows, the quiet distance that grows between you and the people who used to echo your every thought. And here's the truth no one likes to admit. Thinking makes you lonely. Why? Because most people don't want insight. They want affirmation. They want you to mirror them, not challenge them. So the moment you break from the script, you become inconvenient, difficult, dangerous. But here's what Bonhoeffer understood. The greatest threat to tyrants is not the activist with a megaphone. It's the thinker with a conscience. And that conscience is usually forged in isolation. You might think, if stupidity is so dangerous, why does it spread so easily? Because it's not accidental, it's manufactured. Our world is a factory of conformity, mass-producing opinions for public consumption. Social media turns popularity into truth. Education systems reward memorization, not inquiry. Workplaces demand obedience disguised as collaboration. Politics offers identity, not nuance. And behind it all, algorithms that don't care if you're thinking. They care if you're clicking. The more emotional the content, the more likely you are to engage. And the more likely you are to engage, the less likely you are to question. You're not being informed, you're being stimulated. And over time, we confuse that stimulation for insight. What does resistance look like in 2025? It's not what Hollywood sells you. It's not flashy. It's not loud. And it's definitely not comfortable. Real resistance in today's world looks quiet. It's the man who deletes the app that's addicting him. It's the woman who refuses to repost until she's researched the claim. It's the student who asks one uncomfortable question in a room full of certainty. It's the employee who challenges the easy answer in a team meeting. No applause, no standing ovation, just that heavy silence. That means you've touched a nerve, the modern Bonhoeffer test. So how do you know if you're truly thinking or just repeating? Here's a simple 5-question test inspired by Bonhoeffer's insights. 1. Can you explain your belief without using a slogan? 2. Have you ever changed your mind on it, even slightly? 3. Do you know the best argument against your position? 4. Would you hold this belief if none of your friends agreed? 5. Are you willing to be disliked for it? If you answered no to most of those, you're probably in an echo chamber. But that's not a failure. That's the starting point of awakening. We live in a world where machines now think for us. AI writes our news. Algorithms tell us what to watch. Smartphones finish our sentences. We are outsourcing our minds and calling it progress. But Bonhoeffer's warning echoes louder now than ever. The man who no longer thinks for himself is no longer truly free. So reclaim your freedom, not by fighting machines, but by mastering yourself. Journal your thoughts before you share them. Create offline spaces where silence is allowed. Practice intellectual solitude, not isolation, but focused mental clarity. Bonhoeffer didn't die for political drama. He died for the right to think, to reason, to stand firm when the world demanded he kneel. He knew something many of us forget. A society collapses long before its buildings fall. It collapses when its people stop thinking. So if you want to resist the collapse, you don't need a revolution. You just need courage. The courage to be curious, to be slow, to be skeptical when everyone else is loud. The courage to say, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm willing to find out. Here's your new challenge. This week, spend 1 hour listening to someone you completely disagree with, not to argue, not to refute, just to understand. Why? Because your enemy might not be stupid. They might just be using a different map. And maybe, just maybe, understanding that map is how you start drawing a better one. If part 1 was a warning and part 2 was a test, then part 3 is your blueprint. Because once you wake up, once you see the mechanisms, the manipulation, the silent surrender of thought, the question becomes, now what? How do you stay awake when the world rewards sleep? How do you hold the light when everything around you is built for distraction? The answer isn't more knowledge. We have too much of that already. It's not more opinions either. Those are cheap. The answer is something rarer, something that resists commodification. Wisdom.